So welcome into practice, everybody. I'm holding kind of a unique prop today, and that is this little bag that belongs to one of my children that holds the 4 pebbles. And as you know, you are here for the second practice that is inspired by the pebble meditation from the Plum Village lineage. And the second pebble, there literally are pebbles when you do this meditation. Last week we did fresh as a flower, which is usually a red or an orange pebble. And then today we are doing the solid as a mountain, which is typically a blue pebble, not to be confused with water, which is next week, but the blue pebble is typically for the mountain. And the mantra or the affirmation for that is solid as a mountain. So, unsurprisingly, we are going to start in mountain pose near the front of the mat. So you can make your way there. And we'll take about 1.5 minutes to almost do like a grounding sort of meditation coming into this practice. So as you find your way into your mountain pose, feeling the feet rooting down, take a moment to really feel that energy of the feet kind of grounding through the mat into the earth. And then feel that energy begin to ripple up the length of the legs. As your awareness arrives at your pelvis, just take a moment to just check in. We want the pelvis to be neutral, so we don't want to be dropping the pelvis forward, but we also don't want to be tucking the tailbone too much. We want a nice neutral position. And then as you inhale, feeling the spine being tall, elongated, beautiful posture that really honors the natural curves of the spine. And then perhaps softening the face, maybe inviting a very subtle smile. And just opening the ears as you're listening to these grounding words that lead us in today's practice. A mountain really represents solidity. And in this practice of the pebble meditation, the thesis is really that we as human beings have these qualities of the natural world within us, literally. It's not figurative, it's literal. So that means that you yourself are also solid and stable. And without that solidity, you could be pulled away by emotions like anger or fear or anxiety. You could kind of be tossed around without that solidity. In our yoga practice, when we're really solid and stable in a pose, even if there are surrounding distractions, even if there's difficulty in the pose itself, we don't waver. There's this sense of being anchored in the pose, resilient and strong. Off the mat, we can embody our mountainness by not allowing ourselves to be carried away by strong or difficult emotions or even traumas and tumultuous situations that may uproot parts of our lives, and yet the essence of who we are is as solid as a mountain. And so when you're solid in your practice, which is what we're going to work on today, we're no longer shaky in our body and in our mind. In fact, we are solid, strong, stable, and resilient. So take a couple more breaths, just feeling the essence of the mountainness in your body. And just, again, this isn't figurative, this is literal. You actually have these qualities in your body and in your mind. And then as we begin some movement, we'll see if we can maintain those qualities. So you can begin to bring the hands onto the hips. Eyes could open or they could stay closed. We want the feet at least hip distance apart, perhaps a little bit wider, and start to make some big circles with the hips in a clockwise direction. Anatomically speaking, today's practice works a lot with the movement of the thigh bone, the femur, in relationship to the pelvis. So we work on kind of neutral orientation, but also external and internal rotation. Start to reverse those circles counterclockwise. So these circles are just a nice way to kind of get a sense of, okay, what range of motion am I working with today? Take about 2 more of these counterclockwise circles. And then we're going to check into all those different orientations right here in the warm-up. So find yourself in a neutral position. And then we're going to take a first position Uttanasana. So I heel toe my feet until my heels kiss and my feet are turned out like a pizza pie or like a ballerina in first position. And I actually want to kind of hug in my muscles to my bones and allow the glutes to kind of slightly engage here. You'll feel that actually encourages a deepening of that external rotation. Take another breath or so here. And then we're going to bring this into Uttanasana, which is going to get real intense real quick, I promise. So circle sweep the arms out and up. And then start to fold over. And again, this can get really intense. So it's very likely that you need to soften the knees here. And then invite a little bit of movement. So I just let my hips kind of swing from side to side. You might even kind of bend one knee as you swing one direction and then bend the other knee. And it's almost like this subtle movement is kind of coaxing the body open here. Inhale, bring your fingertips to your shins, lift up halfway, long spine. Exhale, we're going to come into a little squat, like a little frog on our mat. So we're going to lift the heels. Your sitting bone or your kind of pubic bone settles on the heels. You could keep your hands down on the mat for support, or if you feel pretty stable, bring your arms up on your outer knees. We'll breathe for 3. Really long spine, so I want you to think front of the chin dials back a little bit so the back of the neck is nice and long. 2. And then we're going to go straight back to that first position Uttanasana. So hands come down, heels kiss together, straightening the hips. You might feel just another little inch of space starting to soften here. And then sweep the arms wide, rise all the way up to center. As you bring your hands into heart center, lift up onto the balls of your feet and pivot your feet parallel. Now circle sweep the arms out and up. We're going to do very similar, but now we have that parallel orientation, which we're much more familiar with. Fold over the legs. And then same thing here, let this be conversational. So that might be some swinging of the hips from side to side, might be bending and straightening the knees a few times. And then we'll start to lower into an L squat. I'm going to turn sideways so you can see this. I start to lift my heels, my hips settle on my heels, and then I'm very tucked right now. I'm actually in contraction here in the front of my hip flexors. So I'm going to start to drop my knees parallel to the floor, and I'm going to try to slide my shoulders right back over my hips so I have this L shape, like a really nice right angle here at the hip joint. And then if you want to challenge the balance even more, reach the arms overhead. 3. Seeing if you can find that stability here in a pretty tenuous balance. Last inhale. And then back into parallel Uttanasana. Hands come to the mat. Drop the heels, lift the seat. Fold forward, Uttanasana. And then last little warm up here. Heel toe the feet so they're the width of the mat. And then turn the feet out 45 degrees. And again, you might like here a little bit of a swinging side to side. And then you know where we're going. We're dropping into our first Malasana, or garland pose of the practice. Drop the hips, knees open wide. You could have the elbows on the inner knees, or you could keep the hands down. Feeling the essence of the mountain in you. And then dropping the hands, walk your feet back to your first downward facing dog of the practice. We're going to continue this examination or this exploration from externally to neutral orientation, bringing in some different variations of child's pose and playing with some different options in down dog. So let's begin by bringing the heels together, finding that first position in down dog. So heels are kissing, feet are turned out. Keep pushing into the palms to lengthen the side body. Big inhale here. As you exhale, let your knees drop to the outer edges of your mat. Untuck your toes, wide-kneed child's pose. Moving more into a flow here. Inhale, shift back forward. Tuck your toes, you're back in that first position, down dog. Inhale, lift up to the balls of the feet. Let your heels come parallel. Melt your heels straight back and down, classic down dog. Drop your knees down to the mat. Thighs are parallel, folded leaf, hip to heels. Inhale, shift forward, back to classic down dog. We'll repeat that 2 more times. Up on the balls of the feet, heels together, feet turned out. Give yourself an inhale in that turned out down dog. Exhale, knees wide to the outer edges of the mat, wide knee child's pose. Inhale brings you forward. Exhale, first position in down dog. Inhale to the balls of the feet. Exhale, heels straight back, feet parallel. Knees come down to the mat, thighs parallel. Exhale, folded leaf. Inhale brings you forward. Exhale, classic down dog. One more time through. Inhale to the balls of the feet. Exhale, heels together. Turn it out. First position, down dog. Knees drop, outer edges of the mat. Hips to heels, wide kneed child's. Inhale, bring it forward. Tuck the toes, first position, down dog. Inhale it up. Melt the heels straight back, parallel. Last time, drop the knees. Folded leaf, hips to heels. Shift forward. We're gonna go through today's Vinyasa pattern 1 time so that you have it kind of as an imprint in the body. Tuck your toes, find your way to plank pose. Full inhale in your plank. Exhale through chaturanga, but all the way to the mat. Inhale, lift up into a nice medium cobra. So not necessarily a baby, but not the full height. Right there in the middle. Then push down into the palms, push up to all 4s, and immediately round to a cat pose. Tuck your toes, hips to heels. So child's pose with a little added toe stretch. Then shift forward and back, downward facing dog. So that's our Vinyasa pattern today. Looking to the front of the mat, walking or stepping the feet. Inhale, lifting up halfway. Exhale, folding in. We're going to do 3 Surya Namaskaram A's, sweep the arms out and up, with that Vinyasa pattern in the middle. So totally classic sun salutations, just with a change up of the Vinyasa pattern. Sweep the arms out and up. Exhale, folding over the legs. Inhaling, you are solid. Exhaling, stepping back to plank. Here we go. Exhaling through chaturanga, all the way to the floor. Inhale to that beautiful medium cobra. Exhale, press through all 4s. Feel that cat pose. Let the scapula really widen like wings. Tuck the toes. Child's pose with that added sole of the foot stretch. Lift up and back, downward facing dog. 3 breaths here. If you think of mountains, they withstand an incredible amount of change, also a lot of trauma and upset, forest fires, avalanches, erosion, climate change, all sorts of things. Trees get ripped up, rivers get dried up or redirected, habitats get disrupted and animals leave. Look to the front of the mat, walking or stepping the feet to the back of the wrists as you inhale, lift up halfway. And yet the mountain stays, fold forward. Sweep the arms out and up. Hands into heart center. So what's on the surface may be destroyed. Sweep the arms out and up. Incredible loss. Fold over the legs. Deep pain, hurt, grief, half lift. Step back to your plank. Inhale in the plank, you are steadfast. Exhale, lower, pause briefly in that chaturanga, and then keep lowering to the mat. Inhale, lift up, cobra. Exhale, press through that all fours. Find your cat. Feel the wingspan open in the upper back. Tuck the toes. Child's pose. Feel that little stretch right underneath the base of each toe. And then up and back, downward facing dog. And what's amazing is even when mountains withstand these kinds of traumas or losses, or it doesn't take that much time for them to begin to regenerate and come back. Always finding a way to stimulate new growth. So in that respect, mountains are incredibly resilient. Look to the front of the mat, walk or step the feet. Inhale, lift up halfway. Exhale, fold. Sweep those arms out and up. We've got one more of these flows with today's Vinyasa pattern, hands to heart center. Sweep the arms out and up. Folding over the legs. Inhaling, you are resilient. Exhaling, stepping back to plank, you are strong. Exhaling through that chaturanga all the way to the mat. Inhaling up into your cobra. Exhaling into your cat. Tuck the toes, child's pose. Downward facing. And so using today's practice to develop that sense within yourself, that felt sense. See if you can actually feel stable. If you can, in a very real way, experience your own strength through this practice. We're going to look to the front of the mat, walk or step the feet, closing out these sun salutations, half lift. Fold. Sweep the arms out and up. Hands into heart center. Release the arms alongside you. Close your eyes, spending about 30 seconds for a micro meditation here. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I am solid. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. Breathing out, I am strong. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. And breathing out, I am steadfast. You can blink open the eyes. We're going to start to move into a rather lengthy sequence. The rarest thing about this sequence is that of all places, it starts belly down on the floor. So we're going to kind of do a little sun salutations to get there, and that's where our sequence will start. And it's a pretty long sequence, so we're only going to do it once on each time today, not rushing, really connecting with that feeling of strength and stability throughout each pose. So staying in that mountain pose at the front of your mat, you can begin by inhaling to sweep the arms out and up, maybe looking up, and exhale, diving forward to fold over the legs. Inhale, take your half lift. I just love to bring that length into the spine, and then walk it on back to your plank. Take a breath in your plank pose, and then go ahead and lower one solid piece all the way to the floor. We're going to start this long sequence by bringing the forehead onto the floor. I'm just keeping my head lifted so my voice stays clear. Lengthen your arm. Actually, keep your palms right underneath the fronts of your shoulders. And then hug your elbows in and lengthen them towards the back of your mat. So elbows in and back. Now as you inhale, I want you to push the tops of your feet into the mat. You'll feel your kneecaps lift up and away. As you exhale, lengthen your right leg to the back of your space, and inhale, lift your right leg up. Half Shalabhasana. Take a couple of breaths there, breathing in that half locust pose. Feeling this stability and having most of the surface area of the body supported by the mat here, and yet working quite diligently. Begin to bend your right knee 90 degrees. Flex your right foot so the sole of your right foot is smiling up to the ceiling. And then push your right foot as if you were going to create a footprint on your ceiling. Straight up. Trying to lift as much of the surface area of your right thigh away from the mat as possible. Take one more breath here. And then let the right thigh slowly settle back on the mat. Lift your head and your chest. Slide your forearms forward, finding your way into a sphinx position with the upper body. And then we're going to create like a cactus leg here, sliding the right knee out and forward. Rooting down through the forearms, push the forearms down, but also simultaneously pull the elbows back towards the rib cage. As you take a couple more breaths here, let the right inner thigh slowly open. Encourage the front or the anterior side of the right hip to kind of melt towards the mat. Well done. If you want a little bit more, these last couple of breaths, you could widen the palms the width of your mat, push into the palms, lift the elbows so you're more in like a seal orientation. Last breath here. And then if you happen to lift the forearms, go ahead and slowly lower them back down. Slide your palms back right underneath the fronts of your shoulders. Tuck your left toes. You're going to press up to an all tables position or an all fours position with your right leg extended straight behind you. So push down through the palms, left knee, and extend your right leg straight back. You may need to walk your palms underneath you for a little bit more stability. And then just like we did on the floor, I want you to power up that right leg towards the ceiling, but without overly compromising the front of the rib cage. So keep the front of the rib cage gently drawn in, but reach the back of the right heel up towards the ceiling. You'll feel the hamstrings and the glute activate. Maintain that effort, bend your right knee 90 degrees. Same thing we did when we were belly down. Push the sole of the foot up towards the ceiling. Yes, you're feeling that right glute really squeezing. Now try not to dip your right knee as you sweep your right knee wide and forward into that cactus position. And then keep it lifted as you sweep back into that 90 degrees sole of the foot to the ceiling. Do that 2 more times. Keep that right knee lifted. Back and forward, frog. Back and up. Good. 1 more time. Back and forward. You could call it a frog or a cactus, whichever one you prefer. Back and in. And then we're going to step that right foot forward, immediately moving into some hip flossing. So that was a lot of kind of squeezing and holding for a long time. So let this be really fluid. Just kind of all the rules out the window for a second. Excellent. Now the next time you rock back into your Anjaneyasana, half splits pose, pause there. Leg is neutral, right? We've got all 5 toes pointed up. We're going to play with that external rotation. So not just the foot, I want the entire length of the right leg to externally rotate. Pinky toe side, dropping towards the mat, and then let your hands follow. Walk your hands around to the right. So you create like a C shape or a serpentine shape with the spine. Keep letting the whole right leg all the way up at the femur externally rotate. 1 more breath here. And then this next one is actually probably going to feel really good, but we don't do it very much. We're going to internally rotate. So walk your hands to the left, and as you go, let your whole right leg internally rotate, and your right big toe might even touch the mat. Hands to the left. So you've kind of moved totally open. This feels like literally the complete opposite of what we were just doing. It's spacious, it's not tight, it's probably a little easier. 1 more breath. And then we're going to come back to neutral. We're going to immediately shift up and back to 3-legged dog. So shift forward, plant your palms, tuck your left toes, sweep that right leg up and back to 3-legged dog. Bend your right knee 90 degrees and then start to make big circles with the hip. So it's like you have a crayon attached to your right knee.
and you're drawing as big of a circle, like a spirograph as possible, and then reverse the direction of those circles. Now we're going to get a little bit interesting, a little bit more challenging. Straighten your right leg straight up and back, three-legged dog. Keep that right leg lifted. Walk your hands back to your left foot so you're in a supported warrior three. Right leg is lifted. Now you could stay right here or sweep your right leg forward in that kind of frog position, except your right leg is now extended. You could stay here, or you can lift your right arm like a T and lift your left arm like a T, like an airplane. 2. 1. Lower the hands down to the mat. Lower your right foot next to your left. Inhale, lift halfway. Exhale, fold in. Circle sweep the arms out and up. As you come down, bring your left hand to your waist. Lift your right knee, right hand to right knee. And then dropping into our balance here, but with some dynamic movement. Sweep your right knee out and then sweep it back in. Inhale, sweep it out. So finding that stability, sweep it in, even in the midst of difficulty or a little bit of chaos. Sweep it out. Listen carefully. Point your right toes. Bring your right toes. I'm just turning so you can see me. Right toes are coming in towards that left leg. It could be low or high, but it's not quite touching. You're hovering in that tree pose. 2. Really active in that right quad to keep that right leg lifted. Then sweep your right leg forward. Don't have to step super big here. We're coming to a 90-90 lunge. So step the right foot forward and then lower into a 90-90 lunge. You can untuck the back toes. Vinyasa, step the right foot off and out of the mat. Eagle arms, right arm underneath left, and start to glide out and in. Good. And then I'm just turning so you can see this a little bit. There's an option as you glide out to lift the fingertips and as you glide in to drop the elbows. So you can kind of add in, and this is creating all this space in the upper back. It should feel really nice. Okay, and then here's a little non-traditional yoga for you, but great for functional life. As you come back to neutral, unravel your arms, take them out wide, like tightrope workers often do when they're trying to keep their balance, because we're gonna need it. And I want you to imagine there's something in front of you, right in the middle of your mat. Step your right foot to the front of your mat, but kind of on that right side edge. So to the right side edge. Now imagine you've got something in front of you, like a block or a bottle, and you're gonna step your foot up and over, and then up and over, and up and over. Yes, and up and over. And try to establish your balance every time you step. So get there and be like, okay, here's stability. One more time, and one more time. Yes, hands down to the mat. Sweep that right leg back up, three-legged dog. Beautiful. You might want to watch this and then join me. We're going to sweep the right leg out to the side and all the way to the front right corner of our mat. You could drop your left knee, and this could be your splits today, or keep sliding into a diagonal Hanumanasana. Breathing for 2, for 1. And then tuck those left toes. As you make your way back out, try to lift this front leg as soon as you possibly can. Activating the right thigh, sweeping it up and back. Last pose, shift forward to plank, right knee in towards the navel. Shoot that right foot over to the left edge of your mat. And scissor split, keep your left hand down today. Keep reaching your right heel over to the left, but as you do that, also lift your right hip away from the mat. And then look forward, smile. 2 more breaths here, maybe broaden the collarbones. Really intense scissor split. And then Vinyasa pattern, step your right foot back, plank pose. Lower through chaturanga all the way to the mat. Inhale, cobra. Exhale, cat. Tuck the toes, child's. Downward facing dog. So that's the sequence. Completed one side. We'll begin the other side in just a few minutes. Got about 30 more seconds here in down dog to chill out. Breathing in, seeing yourself as a mountain. Breathing out, feeling solid. Embodying the mountain within you. And your next inhale, go ahead and shift forward to plank pose. And then that controlled descent all the way to the mat. We're going to keep the palms right underneath the front of the shoulders. Elbows are tucked in and reaching back. So there's real activation in the arms. And then pushing the tops of the feet into the mat so the kneecaps are lifting away. Start to lengthen your left leg towards the back of the mat. Float and lift that left leg, Ardha Shalabhasana, half locust. And seeing if we can locate that experience of stability and solidity, even in the midst of some pretty intense effort. Bend your knee 90 degrees, flex your left foot. And then as if you would make a footprint on the ceiling, push up. 2. Slowly let the left thigh find the mat. Slide the forearms forward. You're in your Sphinx pose. And then slide that left knee out and forward. You're in that cactus or frog-like shape. When Thich Nhat Hanh and the monastics of the Plum Village tradition teach this pebble meditation to children, and in particular when they teach this quality of being as solid as a mountain, they often bring in lessons around emotions like anger and fear and anxiety. For these last couple breaths, you might want to widen the palms, push into them, lifting up into more of a seal-like shape, deepening the back bend. And talking about how a mountain can withstand great storms the same way that who we really are, our self-energy, the truest part of who we are as people, can withstand tumultuous emotions like anger and anxiety and fear and frustration. We'll lower the forearms down to the mat. Slide the palms right underneath the front of the shoulder. And then we're going to lift up into that all fours. Left leg is going to extend straight back. Good. You might need to walk the palms underneath you. Get that alignment where it feels stable for you. And then activate that lifting sensation in the back leg, but without completely compromising the front of the torso. So there's still an awareness of the front of the ribs drawing together, even though we are in kind of a back bend. So there's core engagement even in a back bend. Bend your left knee 90 degrees, flex the left foot. Same thing, push the foot to the ceiling. Feel the glute and the hamstring being really active. We're strengthening those areas of the posterior chain. Now we'll start to keep the knee lifted, but sweep it out and forward into that cactus, and then out and back. 2 more times. It sweeps out and forward, and out and back. Last time, out and forward, out and back. And then we kind of let all that kind of stiffness go, step the left foot forward, and get really loosey-goosey as we floss out the hips. And so a quote that I found from Thich Nhat Hanh is he would talk about breathing in, I'm aware of my anger, my anxiety, and my fear. And breathing out, I'm aware of the energy of mindfulness that's taking care of my anger, my fear, and my anxiety. Breathing in, I do not have to react. Breathing out, I can be stable in the midst of difficulty. So the next time you shift back, you're in that Ardha Hanumanasana. Left leg is neutral, toes are pointed straight up. But now we're going to take it into external rotation. So the whole left leg externally rotates. Left pinky toe dropping to mat. Hands walk to the left. And so you may be aware of certain uncomfortable, challenging sensations, emotions, feelings, even right here in this pose. And yet you can simultaneously be aware of the energy of your mindfulness of those things being present, actually taking care of them. You don't have to react because you can be stable in the midst of that discomfort. Walk the hands to the right. Let the whole left leg internally rotate. This likely feels more freeing, more liberating, more easeful. And then we start to move into perhaps the most challenging part of the sequence because we come back to neutral. We shift forward just briefly enough to plant the palms and then sweep up and back to three-legged dog. Once we get there, we bend the left knee and start to draw those big circles with the left knee. Trying to keep the shoulders as square as possible, reverse the circles in the hips. And then straighten that left leg straight, three-legged dog. Walk your hands back to your right foot. You're in a supported warrior three at the back of your mat. And then here we get really tricky, challenging, demanding. Sweep the left leg out and forward. You could keep the hands down, or you could start to kind of see if you can play, I'll face you because my walls become challenging, with a T-balance, 2. Hands come down. Bring your left hand next to your, left foot rather, next to your right. Take a half lift, inhale. Exhale, fold. Sweep all the way up to standing. And then you bring your right hand to your waist. Left knee starts to lift up. And then you stay connected to balance, but we're moving on purpose, sweeping left knee out and sweeping it in. And out. And in. And out. And then you point the toe, and again, you're not touching that standing leg, you're hovering. And that's going to encourage more activation in that left leg. Yes. One more breath. And then sweep it straight forward. And you don't have to step too forward, so hopefully we're not clumping. Stepping that left foot lower to our 90-90. And then step on out and start to glide. Left arm is underneath right in your eagle arms. Option to add in that lifting and lowering of the arms here. Yeah. And the next time we come in, arms open out wide, moving into our little tightrope practice here. Step that left foot forward to the outer left side. Imagine there's that block. You've got to lift the left foot up and over it. Up and over. Stability. Up and over. And up. Whoop. And up. 2 more. Up. And up. Way harder than it looks. And up. Hands down. That side is way harder for me, by the way, which I think is normal, but like my left is like crazy harder to balance than my right. Sweep up and back, 3-legged dog. We're almost done here. And then we're gonna bring it all the way forward. See how much you can control this huge circular action, and then find your diagonal Hanumanasana. Again, that could be way up here. You don't have to go super low. One more breath here. And then as we make our way back, trying to lift that left leg as soon as possible to sweep it up and back. Last pose, shift forward to plank, left knee in towards the navel, and then left foot over to the right. Keep the palms down. The more the left foot reaches to the right, the more I want you to hug that left knee, hip up and in. Really intense in the IT band, I know. Being still and present like a mountain. Final vinyasa pattern. Step that left foot back, plank. Pass through that chaturanga on your way down. Medium cobra. Cat. Child's toes are tucked. Down dog. Look to the middle of the mat, jump through, come all the way onto your back. When you arrive onto your back, we're going to be working with Supta Padangusthasana A, B, and C. You may like to have your left knee bent with your left foot on the mat, or you could keep it straight, your choice. Either way, right knee and thigh in towards the chest. And then when you're ready, interlacing the hands behind the right thigh or the calf. So again, if you know you've got tight hamstrings, I highly encourage that left knee bent, left foot on the mat. It just lets you focus on one thing at a time here without overcomplicating it. If you've got a pretty open body in this region, go ahead and straighten that left leg. Up to you. Wherever you are, take your right hand, bring it down to your hip crease. And I want you to use your right hand to just remind your body that your right hip should be lengthening to the bottom of your mat. So most of us, including myself, notice the right side of the torso tends to cinch up here, and I'm encouraging you to lengthen it. Good. Take your right hand inside your right leg. Could be on the calf, could be on the inner ankle, could be on the inner heel. And then sweep the right leg out. Left hand could be on the left thigh, could be out in like a half T position. And then Supta Padangusthasana C, sweeping that right leg back up to center. We're going to switch hands. So left hand's going to come to the outside of the right leg, right arm down to the mat, and then a very small movement of that right leg diagonally across the body. That right hip should stay on the mat. If you're not sure if you're feeling what you want to feel, flex your right foot more strongly, and your body will immediately tell you what you should be feeling. And then bring your right knee in towards your chest. Let your left knee join. Give yourself a little hug. Maybe a little rocky rock from side to side. And then little sequence on the second side. So right foot either on the mat or right leg straight. Interlace the hands behind the left thigh or left calf. Straighten it up. Supta Padangusthasana A. And then you might not even need to use your left hand in your hip crease this time, but just check in. You can use your sense of proprioception here. Is the left side of your waist shorter or more cinched than your right? Try to lengthen it. Take your left hand to the inner thigh, calf, ankle, or heel, sweep it out. And then coming back up to center, Supta Padangusthasana C, right hand to the outer left side. Very small diagonal line. It does not take much for you to feel the C variation. And then left knee into chest, right knee joins. Final hug before we have a brief Shavasana.
We'll be doing, this was a more lengthy practice, so we'll do a 60-second Shavasana. If you have time for more, by all means take more. But wherever you are, lengthening arms and legs, finding that resting position. Breathing in, I see myself as a mountain. And breathing out, I am solid. Mountain. Solid. Mountain. Solid. And without moving your body, allow the breath to naturally deepen. Become a bit more conscious. And from that place of deeper breath, you can start to wiggle the fingers and the toes. Welcoming in movements that feel invigorating to you. Until eventually, in your own way and in your own time, you make your way back up to a comfortable seat. And to close the practice, we bring the hands anywhere on the body as a gesture of gratitude, or we bring the palms of the hands together. I'd like to just express a special note of gratitude for the Plum Village tradition, for offering up the inspiration for this series in the form of the Pebble Meditation. We ask that the entire universe be filled with peace and joy, love and light. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. Victory to all of our practices.